All right. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to say call Halayim Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rakah Quitash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who have taught me this truth and who rule well in this truth. Shalom to the 144,000 and the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel that is scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Peace and mercy unto you. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you are the true Hebrew Israelites that the Bible speaks of. You are the true chosen people of the book. All right, so today in this lesson, I want to get into this book. It's called Population Control by D0MS. All right, and if you should know, all right, if you're not living under a rock, if you know what's going on around you, if you know what's happening, all right, you know that the elites, the elite banking families, all right, the wicked Illuminati elite banking families, they have an agenda to bring forth a new world order, and part of that new world order is population control. All right, depopulation, man. All right, because they want to get rid of. Matter of fact, let's get into it. All right, because when you go to the Georgia Guidestones, right? If you know anything about the Georgia Guidestones, all right, let's look that up real quick. All right, when you look at the Georgia Guidestones, all right, one of the orders of the Georgia Guidestones is to keep, is to bring the population down to 500 million. There's over 8 billion people on this earth right now. So they want to get rid of 7.5 billion people on this earth, man. All right, so let's look at it real quick. All right, let's see if I can get a close up right here. Maybe you can see it. All right, it says right here, it says maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Yeah, because that's their agenda, man. All right, to depopulate, man, to bring this earth to the population of 500 million, man. All right. And depopulation is done by many ways. All right, chemtrails, all right, the food industry, the water supply, how they poison it. All right, what do you think this whole scamdemic and plandemic was about, man? All right, order ad chaos, man. All right, to get the people in fear and the uproar. All right, so they could take what? The yo jabba jabba, man. All right, because the yo jabba jabba was is nothing but a poison to depopulate this earth, man. All right, they told you this is the most deadliest virus in the world, or outbreak, or pandemic in the world. All right, and you people fell for it, so you ran to get the juicy juice, man. And now the people are dropping like flies. This was part of their depopulation agenda, man. All right. It was also a test for the MOTB, a precursor for the MOTB, man, the mark of the beast, man, which is the RFID microchip, man. The elites wanted to see how much power they had, man. All right. A matter of fact, let's get into it, man. All right. So this is population control, and also that was one of Edom's blessings, man. All right. When Isaac blessed Esau, man. What was one of his blessings? All right, he was blessed with the sword, man. So that's why Edom, under his rulership, all right, the earth under his rulership, all he does is destroy and bring hell and pain and death upon this earth, because his blessing was the sword. That's all he knows how to do, is to rule with the sword, rule with destruction and chaos and war, you know. All right, so population control, D0MS. All right, so when you go into the table of contents, let's zoom in real quick. All right, these are the chapters. All right, depopulation. All right, drugs, deadly medicine, deadly vaccines. All right, deadly foods. All right, deadly grains, deadly sweeteners, GMOs, deadly water, deadly air. All right, the militarization of the police, the rise of SWAT teams. All right, wrongful arrest. This is all part of their depopulation agenda, man. Their new world order agenda, man. All right, but what I want to go to today into today is deadly air, into these chemtrails, man. All right, so let's get into it, man. This is page 114. Let's grab it real quick. All right, 114. All right, this is gonna be this might be a long read, man. All right, as you see right here, chemtrails. All right, that's part of their depopulation agenda, their population control, man. All right, so what I want to read today is I want to read this little paragraph right here, and also the next 2 pages as you see right here. All right, this side and this side. I kind of want to go more. This is gonna be a long read, but I at least want to get at least to here. All right, so let's read it, man. All right, so this is chemtrails, man. All right, this goes to show you the wickedness of Esau Edom, man. All right, the earth is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, man. All right, and the scriptures say, destroy them that destroy the earth. Esau Edom has to be destroyed because he has destroyed this earth, man. That's why nuclear destruction has to come, because the nuclear destruction is going to cleanse everything, man. It's going to cleanse the air. Just imagine what the air, how clean the air is going to be in the kingdom of heaven. Just how smooth and freely it's just going to flow through our bodies. Just clean air, man. All right, everything's going to be cleansed. The elements, the soil, the earth, the waters, everything, man. That's why nuclear destruction has to come, man. All right, but anyway, let's get into it, man. All right, let's read it, man. All right. So it says chemtrails. It says, a few years back, a retired Army intelligence officer was visiting a friend still in the military and stationed at the White Sands Proving Ground in New Mexico when a high-flying jet flew across the sky, leaving a white trail in its wake. During the conversation, the serviceman boasted about the security at White Sands, stating that no aircraft were allowed to fly over its restricted airspace. The former intelligence officer pointed to the craft above them and asked, "What about that airplane?" After looking directly at the jet above them, the serviceman replied with a smirk, "What plane?" All right. The anecdote illustrates, it's right here, I'm right here. It says, the anecdote illustrates the problem of the aerial phenomena that have come to be known as chemtrails. Like the serviceman under orders not to admit to overflights, no one in a position of authority will admit that chemtrails exist, much less who is responsible for them and what purpose they serve. All right. But unlike many modern mysteries, this one is visible to anyone who cares to look up on the days that large high-flying jets weave narrow and continuous vapor chemical trails through the sky. Despite dismissive articles calling chemtrails merely a new conspiracy theory, and citizens in denial that something so obvious might not be reported in the mainstream media, a growing number of serious researchers have studied the phenomenon. All right. It says, for more than a decade, all right, this is somebody's quote right here. It says, for more than a decade, first the United States, then Canada's citizens have been subjected to a 24/7, 365-day aerosol assault over our heads made of a toxic brew of poisonous metals, chemicals, and other dangerous ingredients. None of this was reported by mainstream media, noted the late environmental activist and former college professor, Dr. Aya Sandra Perlingeri, all right? Perlingeri, all right? It says, the U.S. Department of Defense and military have been systematically blanking all our skies with what are known as chemtrails, also known as stratospheric aerosol geoengineering. These differ vastly from the usual plain contrails that evaporate rather quickly in the sky. All right, chemtrails are nothing new. The U.S. military, in what have been described as vulnerability test has sprayed chemical and biological compounds in the air in open air testing over civilian populations since the 1940s. All right, I'm right here. All right, just one example was the dumping of thousands of pounds of zinc cadmium sulfide during nearly 300 secret experiments between 1952 and 1969. Targets of this contamination include Fort Wayne, Indiana, St. Louis, San Francisco, Corpus Christi, Oceanside, California, and even Minnesota's Chippewa National Forest. All right, beginning around 1997, observant people around the world started noticing the long trails in the sky that failed to evaporate like the condensation trails from normal aircraft. Condensation trails, or contrails, have been a fixture in the skies since World War II, when high altitude bombers would leave a trail of condensation behind them. All right, let's keep reading. Let me zoom in a little bit. All right, it says, I'm right here at the top. All right, any aircraft engine, jet, or piston produces warm, moist air, which, when injected into the cold, dry air of the upper atmosphere, results in a trail of water vapor or ice crystals that stream out behind the craft. All right, once these particles return to a cooler state, they evaporate back into the air. This evaporation can take place within 10 seconds or stretch for more than an hour depending on the temperature and humidity in the atmosphere. Since contrails primarily contain water, they present no real hazard to the population. All right, contrails do not normally occur below about 30,000 feet. All right, chemtrails are entirely different. These trails do not evaporate but spread out and eventually form a cloudy haze over the entire sky. And you can see that, bro. When you look up and you look at the chemtrails, they little by little, gradually they spread out, you know, side to side. They spread out, and now they're like spread over the air, you know. You can see that, man. It says, as World War II veteran David Oglesby noted, after observing chemtrails in the sky above his California home, the trails form a grid pattern. Yeah. All right. Some stretched from horizon to horizon. Some began abruptly and others ended abruptly. They hung in the air for an extended period of time and gradually widened into wispy clouds resembling spider webs. All right. And you can see that in the sky, bro. You can see that. It looks just like that. All right. I counted at least 11 different trails. All right. It says the officials debunking line that all observed trails in the sky are simply condensation trails falls apart when chemtrails are seen simultaneously in the same portion of the sky and at approximately the same altitude. Keen observers have noticed two planes of similar size laying trails at the same altitude and at the same time, yet they are not the same. It says one is short while the other reaches to the horizon. Others ask how it can be that one day there are numerous trails crisscrossing each other in the sky, but on the next day, with no change in the climate, there are no trails in the sky. All right. Did all aircraft suddenly stop flying? Yeah, right. It says even more damning, chemtrails often occur at altitudes and in conditions that would make it impossible for a normal contrail to form. All right. It says furthermore, contrails are composed of water vapor, whitish in color, and produce no halo. effect in sunlight. Chemtrails, on the other hand, appear oily and produce rainbow effects. Yeah, because of all those damn chemicals, man. All right? Especially in the late afternoon sun. Contrails cannot be stopped without shutting off an aircraft's engine. But chemtrails have been observed coming to an end even as the aircraft producing them flies onward. All right? Aircraft do not shut off their engines mid-flight. All right? Let's keep going because I want to get to this main part right here. This part over here on the right side. All right? So let's says Ohio Representative Dennis Kucinich, all right, who served as chairman of a subcommittee of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, once introduced his unsuccessful Space Preservation Act of 2001, all right, designed to ban the development of exotic weapons in space, all right. Listed in this legislation were chemicals, biological, environmental, climate changing, or tectonic weapons, and notably chemtrails. All right. In 2004, while campaigning as a presidential candidate, Kucinich responded to a question about chemtrails by flatly stating chemtrails are real. All right. Bob Fitrikis, all right, of Columbus Alive, asked Kucinich why he would introduce a bill banning so-called chemtrails when the U.S. government routinely denies their existence and the U.S. Air Force routinely calls chemtrail sightings hoaxes. Kucinich replied, "The truth is there's an entire program in the Department of Defense, Vision for 2020, that's developing these weapons." All right. It says, in an apparent effort to conceal classified weapon systems, the more exotic weapons, including chemtrails, were later stricken from the failed bill. Government aided by a compliant corporate mass media predisposed to blindly accept official pronouncements, all right, as gospel, all right, continues to skirt the issue. No ambitious reporter wants to sidetrack their career by digging into morass of official denials on chemtrails. Even many politicians appear to be in the dark. They're not really in the dark though. They know what's going on, bro. All right, because politicians are puppets too, man. All right, politicians and your mayors, your governors, and they're all puppets too, man. They're all Freemasons. All right, even many politicians appear to be in the dark, having been given the official runaround when it comes to chemtrails. All right, after describing condensation vapor trails and attributing chemtrail sightings to ever increasing air traffic, Air Force Colonel Walter M. Washabow testified in Congress that chemtrails are a hoax. All right, he stated the Air Force's policy is to observe and forecast the weather to support military operations. The Air Force is not conducting any weapon modification experiments or programs and has no plans to do so in the future. In short, there is no such thing as chemtrails, which is bullshit, all right? The actual contrails are safe and are a natural phenomenon, all right? Let's read. Let's continue reading. All right? They pose no health hazard of any kind, all right? It says I'm right here, all right? It says a Houston, Texas study found that over the course of 63 days of observation, military aircraft laid down white plumes that lasted for 8 hours or more, while commercial airliners flying at the same time at the same altitude left contrails that lasted no longer than 25 seconds. Stranger still were observations of aircraft not filing flight plans and hence not recorded by the FAA or shown in the flight software. It was discovered that the jets that were responsible for leaving highly persistent trails that lasted for hours did not ever appear on Flight Explorer. All right, the report stated. So the flights weren't recorded. All right. It says, so how are chemtrails harming us? All right. So how are chemtrails harming us? All right. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, people and even some local TV stations began to report strange white sticky substances being found on homes, yards, and vehicles. It was lace-like and hung from trees and shrubbery as if it had fallen from the sky. Chemical analysis found this substance contained aluminum oxide, barium, polymers, and even traces of pathogens. People in the vicinity of this substance reported ill effects such as asthma, fatigue, headaches, dizziness, joint pain, and flu-like symptoms. The chemtrail formula was apparently improved, all right, and the number of reports of webby material has declined in recent years. All right, I'm right here, all right, because no one in a position of authority will admit what is happening right in front of the public's eyes. Researchers have been forced to speculate on what chemtrails are about. One theory is that the citizenry is being exposed to chemical spraying as a covert means of inoculation. All right. Although germ warfare experts and medical authorities agree that a high altitude spraying program is an inefficient method for disturbing bacteria and viruses. All right. Likewise, there seems to be little evidence that the chemtrails are specifically designed to call the human population, as was believed by many in the early days of the spraying. All right. Many pathogens have been found in the upper atmosphere, which is an indication that illnesses brought on by chemtrails may not be an international part of the program. All right. Nevertheless, they may be inadvertently, all right, brought to Earth by the chemtrail haze. This undoubtedly is a small consolation to those who suffer from such contamination and indicates an indifference to public harm on the part of those responsible for the spraying. All right. It says one Canadian research foundation concluded that the much discussed but little publicized chemtrails may be an attempt to hide a sickening military secret. All right. Professor Donald Scott, president of the Common Cause Medical Research Foundation, posits that chemtrails are a belated attempt by U.S. military and intelligence chieftains to stop the spread of a debilitating disease first concocted by the U.S. military in the early 1980s. According to Scott's account, the military began developing diseases in the 1970s. All right, goes to show you, because a lot of diseases that are here out in the world today that people have, you know, those are all created, bro. Man-made diseases, bro. Diseases that are today, you didn't have those diseases in the ancient world. The sicknesses that people have today, you didn't have that in the ancient world 2,000, 3,000 years ago, bro. You know? That goes to show you the wickedness of Esau. This man is the damn devil, man. All right, that's his blessing, the sword, man, to be able to do such things, man. All right. It says, according to Scott's account, the military began developing diseases in the 1970s that were infectious but not contagious. In other words, They developed an ailment that could be spread to enemy troops but would not pass into other populations. One such disease was based on brucellosis, all right, a disease that can be transmitted to humans by animals. Brucellosis is a bacterial disease usually found in cattle that can cause undulant fever in humans. All right, by manipulating the disease, researchers were able to design a disabling bacteria that disappeared following injection. Troops could be infected yet exhibit no signs of the bacteria when examined by a doctor. Scott goes on to say that, encouraged by successful testing and with the approval of then Vice President George H.W. Bush in 1986, the brucellosis bioagents were shipped to none other than Saddam Hussein in Iraq, who at that time was fighting a protracted war against Iran at the behest of the CIA. But after Saddam had obtained a stockpile of Brucella abortus, biotypes 3 and 9, and Brucella melitensis, all right, biotypes 1 and 3, it was discovered that this designer bacteria had mutated and become contagious. According to Scott's report, Saddam used this pathogen on American troops during the Persian Gulf War in 1991, all right, resulting in an illness referred to as Gulf War syndrome. More than 100,000, all right, Gulf War vets still suffer from this illness, which causes chronic fatigue, loss of appetite, profuse sweating, even at rest, joint and muscle pain, insomnia, nausea, and damage to major organs. Yeah, all right. So if you got the U.S. military being making they can make diseases, man, and that's what they doing to the people, bro. They doing that warfare is being brought to the people through the food, man. All right, that's why when you eat food, people eating stuff like Chips Ahoy cookies and Oreos and Twinkies and brownies. People getting diabetes and cancer and all types of crazy illnesses, bro. Food is not supposed to bring disease, bro. It's supposed to bring health, and it's supposed to be medicine. Not cause disease and obesity and, you know? All right, let's keep reading. It says, and damage to the organs. Much of this information may be found in a 1994 report by Senator Donald W. Regal Jr. entitled U.S. Chemical and Biological Warfare Related. I'm gonna look this up, man. All right, entitled U.S. Chemical and Biological Warfare Related Dual Use Exports to Iraq and their possible impact on the health consequences of the Persian Gulf War. All right, some claim a variant of brucellosis brought home by soldiers has spread to the civilian population in the U.S., with many people now suffering from general debilitation and tiredness. All right. It says, matter of fact, I'll read a little more. It says, when the contagion, all right, began to spread among the general population, top officials with national institutions of health and centers for disease control, as well as the Defense Department and the Department of Health and Human Resources, began a program of misrepresentation of the disease to mask their role in its origin. The illness, initially said to be psychosomatic, later was claimed to be connected to the Epstein-Barr virus and was labeled chronic mononucleosis. All right. This has now become known as chronic fatigue syndrome. All right. Like The veterans before them, victims of this ailment, were told it was merely a psychological condition. All right. Meanwhile, officials reportedly took steps to counteract the pathogen by covertly inoculating the public using airborne biological agents within chemtrails. All right. Media outlets have been complicit in the government's denial of chemtrails, and attempts to explore the phenomenon have been woefully inadequate. Yeah, because the media outlets are controlled by the Rockefellers, the elite banking families. It tells you that in when you read a book, Bloodlines of the Illuminati. All right, when you go into the Rockefeller family, it tells you they control the media outlets and all that, man. They make you see and hear what they want you to see and hear, man. All right, that's why when you people watch the news, you believe in you people are you people have no idea what's going on, man. No idea, bro. You believe all this nonsense and bullshit, man. All right. It says in February 2007, the Discovery Channel aired a program devoted to the issue. Many believe this was a classic case of misdirection. The program, Best Evidence, was entitled Chemical Contrails, all right, and focused on whether jet aircraft vapor trails might be toxic. The first third of the program fairly presented the concerns of several citizens and researchers regarding the aerial trails that appeared much different from the usual vapor trails. The next third described various scientific equipment, including a jet engine, which was to be used to test burn particulates from the jet's exhaust. The final third was exhaustingly detailed analysis of the burn fuel that showed no pathogens or any other harmful chemical or metal in the fuel waste. All right. The show made clear that nothing unusual was to be found in jet vapor trails, but the fatal flaw in its producer's analysis was obvious. The show's narrator, all right, the show's narrator, all right, the show's narrator, all right, stated that the U.S. military had refused to allow its jet fuel to be tested, all right. Let me read some again. All right, let's keep going. All right. Which eliminated the prime suspect for chemtrails. For their test, the show's producers had used commercial jet fuel purchased from a local airport. No wonder the burn fuel showed no unusual properties. No one has ever accused normal jet fuel of being contaminated with unusual chemicals or pathogens. It also has been established, both by observation and photographs, that chemtrails emanate from lines along aircraft wings, not from their not the engines. Woo! All right. This demonstrates that chemtrails constitute an aerial spraying program and are not connected to spent jet fuel. Woo! All right, bars, dog. All right. It says one Louisiana TV states, you know what? I'll leave it right there. Matt, no, you know what? I'll read this a little bit. All right. It says one Louisiana TV station in late 2007 took upon itself the task of testing water captured under a crosshatch of aerial trails. KSLA TV News in Shreveport found exceptionally high levels of barium, an alkaline earth metal rarely found in nature. All right, since it quickly oxidizes in air. All right, since it quickly oxidizes in air. All right. An excessive amount of barium is toxic, affecting the nervous system and the heart. State health officials confirmed to the TV station that the danger of barium to human nervous and immunization systems, but hesitated to link this danger to chemtrails. All right, so I'll just leave it at that real quick. You know, if it be the Lord's will, I'll do a part 2. I kind of do want to do a part 2. I want to keep reading all this, man. This is a pretty long chapter too, though. All right, and I might go this book, man. All right. So, all right. So if it be the Lord's will, I'll do a part 2. All right. So, you know, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. All right. Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Ratazah. This lesson was edifying, man. All right. I want to say call Halalyum Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rakah Quitash. All right. And on to the next one. Shalom, shalom.